Surprise! Welcome to Inside Voice, where we are processing life out loud. I'm your host, Sha, and on this third and final night of May's full moon energy, I felt called to drop another one for you. Because in the time that we have had together, I didn't realize that these podcasts are moving a certain way. And I had to sit down and think about it. So if you've listened to all my other podcasts, okay, if you're on YouTube, we're talking about listening from the bottom up, from the very beginning, unlearning oldness, on up. There's a flow, a healing flow that we've been journeying on here. I highly, highly recommend, if this is your first time tuning into my podcast, stop right here. Stop right here, right now, and head on down to episode 1 and work your way up. Because when you do, you'll find that we have moved from obligation to awareness, to healing, to choice, to identity, to emotional honesty. And with that comes the need to set and stand on boundaries. This is a journey for anyone learning how to stop abandoning themselves. This is why these podcasts are unpolished. This is why I don't have all the bells and whistles. I don't have any camera crews. This is why you don't see me. This is why I don't do video and audio. I know it's unfair. Some people need to see, but let me remind you what the title of this podcast is called. It's called The Inside Voice, processing life out loud. No one can see your inner voices. No one can see your thoughts. What they can see is the byproduct of them, which is your behavior. Your reactions to things, maybe piece together what you were thinking, sometimes not. So, while we are here, let's go ahead and move right on into today's podcast topic. Boundaries are for you, not for them. And start unpacking. Again, welcome back to Inside Voice, or welcome if this is your first time. This is a Rooted to Radiate podcast, and I am your host, Sha. And the reason why I want to talk about boundaries is because I think a lot of us misunderstand. And through no fault of our own, we're taught to misunderstand this concept, approach, and ultimate responsibility that we have. Boundaries. With social media, like so many other things, it's become kind of a buzzword. that gets thrown around. People use it. They use it right. They use it wrong. They use it without thinking. Because for a long time, most of us, and some of us still, think that boundaries were about telling other people what they could and couldn't do, what they should respect, what they should stop doing, how they should show up differently. But what I've come to realize along this healing journey is that boundaries are not actually for them. Boundaries are not for other people. Not in the slightest. Boundaries are for you. Boundaries are for me. And they're not about controlling someone else's behavior. They're about taking responsibility for our own. Taking responsibility for our time, our energy, our peace, our participation. And when I came to that understanding, it was a huge shift for me. And I'll admit that understanding came fairly recently. It came for me shortly after my mother passed away. My mom passed away, transitioned to Arun, the spirit realm, in September of 2023. And grief is different for everybody. But one thing that's consistent is that it always comes in waves. We don't know how long we'll be in grief. We don't know the order the stages will come in. But everybody grieves. And at first I thought this strange feeling and realization I had was my grief. And in a way it was. Because if you listen to yesterday's podcast, part 2 of our pairing, we talked about that and nostalgia over these past 2 lunar nights, and how when we are on this healing journey, more often than not, we will end up grieving the past, the romanticized version of life that we may have had, the version of people that we were holding on to, versions of ourselves especially that no longer exist because we got clarity and understanding. So for me, I was grieving, but I wasn't just grieving my mother. And when I understood that a boundary is actually a decision about what I will do, well, I stopped. I stopped waiting. I stopped rationalizing. I stopped over analyzing. I stopped making excuses for people. I stopped forgiving, even though I remained compassionate. See, when we set and stand on healthy boundaries, it forces us to stop behaving in ways that ultimately harm us, exhaust us, deplete us. So let's think for a moment about what it looks like to stop trying to control other people and to actually start choosing yourself. And honestly, the last 2 episodes were so long, and I know some of you don't have a problem with that. But I'm not going to make this episode nearly as long because boundaries is not something I want you spending a whole lot of time ruminating on. I don't want you thinking and thinking and thinking and replaying and questioning and spinning your wheels about this. It really is as simple as what they are and what they are not. A boundary is not about telling someone else what they need to do. It's about deciding what you will do in the face of certain behaviors, treatment, situations, dynamics. It's about recognizing where you've been overextending, overexplaining, overgiving, and choosing to respond differently. Again, I'm going to mention reading The Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins. Phenomenal book. Crucial concept. But also something that most of us actually already know. And we just don't practice. It's not, boundaries are not to punish other people. They're not to control other people, but are designed to protect your peace so you can stay in alignment with yourself. Boundaries prevent you from abandoning yourself. Boundaries take commitment, and it requires work. Because before we can even set boundaries and begin to stand on them and stand in them, we have to come to that awareness and understand what we've been doing, how we've been behaving. And even when we're upset with people, we need to ask ourselves, and I talked about this in one of my earlier podcasts, we need to ask ourselves how we've been participating in this dynamic. And if it upsets us so much, why do we keep participating the way that we do? Why do we keep showing up the way that we do? You have to protect your peace in order to stay in alignment with yourself. Stop abandoning yourself. Because at the end of the day, the most important boundary you will ever set is the one that keeps you from abandoning yourself. So this one is definitely one that you need to spend more time journalizing. You need to work it out. You need to see it, say it, write it out. Because it's different for everyone. The boundaries that need to be set the ways in which we can and will abandon ourselves vary so greatly. So if something came up for you while you were listening to this, as always, I invite you to journalize it. But as per usual, I have some questions for you if you need to start somewhere. But remember, as you're answering these questions, boundaries are not about controlling others. They are about not abandoning yourself. So I only have 5 questions for you. And these are a little heavy. So good thing we have about 2 weeks before I'm going to drop the next podcast episode. And who knows what that will be. Question 1. Where in my life am I trying to get someone else to change instead of deciding what I will do? I'll read that again. Where in my life am I trying to get someone else to change instead of deciding what I will do? Question 2. What behavior have I been tolerating that I'm not actually at peace with? What behavior have I been tolerating that I am actually not at peace with? 3. Where do I need a boundary and not another conversation? Because we could talk all day, but actions speak louder than words, yes? Where do I need a boundary, not another conversation? Question 4. What would it look like to respond differently instead of waiting for someone else to act differently? What would it look like to respond differently instead of waiting for someone else to act differently? And lastly, question 5. Where am I being asked to choose myself, even if it feels uncomfortable? Remember, no part of this journey has anything to do with remaining in your comfort zone. Growth does not happen in your comfort zone. Growth does not happen in a vacuum. If we want peace, if we want growth, if we want change, we want to evolve, we want to experience different outcomes, different types of relationships, you're going to have to be uncomfortable for a little while. So again, this last question is, where am I being asked to choose myself, even if it feels uncomfortable? So that's all I have for you this time. And I hope these past 3 podcasts, if not all, some parts of them resonated with you. And I sincerely hope that you feel empowered and like you are not alone in this journey. We all here. We are all out here. Processing, unpacking. It gets messy. It gets loud. Sometimes it gets quiet. But no matter what, that inside voice is always there. We just need to stop and listen. Until the next time, stay rooted so you can radiate. I'm your host, Shah, and I look forward to unpacking with you on the next episode.